Check. Hi, good evening, everybody. Am I audible at the back? Excellent. So quick introduction. I've been invited here to demystify Web3. Before that, let me just do a quick check on the audience. Have you heard of the term Web3 before? Yes, no? Show of hands. That looks like 20% of the audience has heard about Web3. So I'll have to introduce Web3 to most of you. Is that it? A lot of you haven't heard of Web3? Okay, how many of you have heard of crypto? Okay, that's about 80% of the audience. Fantastic, fantastic. So just to give you a quick background, I run Get Evangelize. It's a content creators a platform. We co-create content with large consumer brands. Been doing that since 2015 with brands like Cadbury, Shoppers Stop, Raymond, etc. I've been investing in crypto since 2016. And as a result of that, I started working with a lot of these crypto /Web3 /NFT companies, advising them, their content. And in the process, I learned so much more about this ecosystem that I turned into an evangelist. And every opportunity I find to talk about Web3 and educate people about Web3, I just grab it. So that's primarily what I'm looking at doing it. So let's quickly begin the session and understand what exactly is Web3. And I've just put together a slide for that. To help you look at Web 1 versus Web 2 versus Web 3. Web 1 is, I think, early 1990s when we entered into internet. Heard of Alta Vista? Show of hands. USA.net. Did you have a Yahoo ICQ ID? Did you chat on Yahoo? Yeah. So those are old days. Web 1 is when, comparing the three formats, the three generations of the internet or the web, on an interaction level, Web 1 allowed us to read. Web 2 is when we entered into social media predominantly, where we started to read as well as write. We could also respond to brands and respond to friends and respond to people and send those, requests. And Web 3 today, we can not only read and write, but we can also own. We have a sense of ownership, and we'll dive a little deeper on that. At a platform level, Web 1 the platform was owned by the company. Let's say, example of a Web 1 company is a bank. The bank owns the platform. Web 2, Facebook, who owns the platform? Any guesses? The company owns the platform. Web 3, we'll see a few examples that the users have ownership in the platform itself. The service in Web 1 is from the company to the user. You use Facebook, you use Twitter, you use Instagram. The service actually goes from user to user, right? And the same happens in Web 3. But the way money is made is the game changer over here, right? The typical traditional business, the company made money from users. In the social media Web 2 ecosystem, the company took a piece away from you, right? So there was a cut. There's Magic Bricks, there's Facebook, there's YouTube. They're all taking a percentage from the creators or from the business owners, right? In Web 3, you can actually own the platform and make money yourself and share money with your community. And we're going to see a lot of those examples. The biggest feature, one of the key features of Web 3 is permissionless economy, which we've seen that we always needed permission. Even if you are if you guys work from the digital space, I think most of you here, you need API access from Facebook. If you want an app to go on the Apple ecosystem, you need Apple's authorization that, hey, your app is okay. You need to take these permissions. You're okay to take these permissions, right? In Web 3, it's free and open source software with a permissionless ecosystem, right? So that's where we're looking at. I'll give you some more examples. And comparing Web 2, which is what we've recently experienced with Web 3, so that you understand better how things work. Right? Do you guys use Dropbox, Google Drive, show of hands? Yeah, you pay for it, maybe you don't pay for it, depending on what plans you're looking. But that's a company that owns your data, that holds your data, and you pay for it. There are alternates in Web 3. I've borrowed this image from Misari, which is one of the leading analytics players in Web 3. There are players like Filecoin, Searcoin, Airweave, which hold your data on a decentralized database on the blockchain. There is no one source which is holding your data. It's across the chain, and there are nodes that are supporting it. And you're paying for it, but in a different way, right? If you've heard of GoDaddy, if you book domains, you've heard of GoDaddy, you've heard of Moniker. There are variations of that in Web3, like ENS domains, unstoppable domains, which are actually selling you a domain name as an NFT. So the ownership, the registration, the authenticity, the provenance is all established on blockchain. It is decentralized and everybody knows whose it is. So you don't really have to go and renew it with a certain service provider or go to ICANN and get that whois data, but everything is available on the blockchain, permissionless for everybody to access. So that's how things are changing. You know, you've used blogs, you've used Medium, you've used Upwork, you got Mirror.xyz and a bunch of other options. So for every app that you use, which is probably owned by some centralized entity, there is a decentralized app. And somewhere later on, we'll find out why decentralization is important. But for now, that's a keyword that you got to hold on to. Right? So the 4 key traits of Web3 are decentralization. What is decentralization? It's moving away from a central entity owning and deciding what it is. So there is no company that owns it, but there's a group of people that own it, right? So that's decentralized. You and me can become shareholders, voters of this organization and decide what this organization does. Backend first, you've heard of blockchain probably. That's what drives Web3. Universal identity, right? So in Web2, every little app that we go to, we have to sign up, log in with Gmail, log in with Facebook, log in with your email ID, log in with your phone number, and there are 50 login IDs that we have to use, right? Web3 changes this. Web3 gives you a single identity, which is known as your wallet, and your wallet gives you access across. Now, this wallet is not like your Paytm wallet. It's called a wallet, but it works a little differently. It's like your identity, not really somewhere you put your money. Your money also gets stored over there, but the way it's structured is a little different, and we'll get to that as well. It's pseudonymous. You know, many people think that it's anonymous, but actually it's pseudonymous, which means you can actually know who's doing a transaction, where the transaction is happening. You may not know my name, but you may have enough information to trace who I am. It's not anonymous. So those are the key traits. But a lot of people confuse what Web3 is like. You know, some people just say that, okay, let me have this Web2 app I have made a social network and I'll put it on the blockchain and just make it cool and just launch some tokens and raise some money. That doesn't work. That's not. You know, the principles, the philosophies of Web3 need to be integrated, right? For example, a lot of countries are saying that we'll launch our digital currency. It's called the CBDC, Centralized Bank Digital Currency. If the economies of the currency work the same way that they do in the fiat world, then just getting the currency on the blockchain doesn't make it a decentralized or a Web3 product, right? So those are a lot of misnomers that you got to be sort of looking out for. These are 4 key traits. If you find these traits, then there's a fair chance that the product, the application is a Web3 protocol, right? Let's look at a slightly broader landscape. What does the landscape look like? At the bottom, you have the infrastructure layer. You heard of Bitcoin? Bitcoin? Come on, 100% hona chahiye is pe, right? Okay, so Bitcoin is what is known as layer 1. Layer 1 is at the bottom. Layer 1 is like the rails. Iske upar train chalegi. So just like Bitcoin, there are a lot of other layer 1s like Ethereum, Solana, and then there are other products which scale these layer 1s. So some people think that Bitcoin is slow hai, Bitcoin is a little expensive, or Ethereum is more expensive. So I'll make Ethereum faster, I'll make it cheaper. So then there are layer 2s who use the layer 1 and then they try to give you a faster or a cheaper this thing. So there are layer 1s, layer 2s. You see a lot of these names, Polygon, Ethereum, Solana. These are the ones which make the infrastructure layer of Web3. On top of that, you have a lot of apps which are built, right? And every app has anything that you think you're doing in the Web2 world or in the existing world is happening. Let's say you're doing banking, you're doing insurance, you're doing, you're storing data, you are doing security, you're doing identity. Everything is built on the blockchain in a decentralized version. So that's the second layer. And then there are a lot of use case layers, like you have gaming, you have content, you have social networks, you have marketplaces for NFTs, you have other financial services, which are all built on top of this. So the fundamental is you need a layer, which is a protocol layer like Ethereum, Bitcoin, etc. Then you build these things on. And then the access layer is what is called as what is the browser in Web2, like your Chrome browser. That the equivalent of that is a wallet. So wallet is not really like paisa rakha wo wala wallet. It's actually your identity and your gateway to Web3. And using this, you can access the whole world of Web3. So having a wallet is like having an identity on Web3, right? And that also lets you store money. That's one of the use cases of a wallet. This is a little, you may just want to take a picture of this, but this just shows you how many applications and how many layers of work has been done, right? There's a communication layer, there's a social, everything you see on the screen is decentralized, permissionless, uses a universal identity, is completely Web3, right? So that's the kind of work that is already happening. So if you've not seen this, if not been privy to this, then you are missing out. And it's my job to show you what you're missing out, right? So that you start reading up and you start sort of engaging in this ecosystem, right? So let's look at some of the use cases. I'll just run you through quick use cases. Sorry, that's supposed to be dApps, decentralized apps, that's a typo. A lot of these apps which are decentralized, built on the blockchain, using smart contracts. Smart contract is a self-executing contract which is built on blockchain as a database. I hope everybody knows what a blockchain is, right? Anybody who doesn't know what a blockchain is, show of hands. Great, great. So I think we're all good with what blockchain is. So these apps are built on a host blockchain with a series of smart contracts. So I can build an app on Ethereum as a blockchain, or I can build an app on Solana as a blockchain. As long as Ethereum exists, as long as the smart contract exists, the app will run on its own, right? Jis din Ethereum khatam, the app khatam, right? So you would want to build apps on chains that you think are here to last. So that's how a lot of decentralized apps are created. And that's how blockchains, sort of their valuation goes up. So if you think Ethereum ki price is going up, why? Because a lot of people are creating apps. And because a lot of people are creating apps, a lot of users are using those apps. And hence Ethereum is getting used. So that economy is getting generated, right? So that's how you value Ethereum or Solana or any other blockchain that you're looking at, which were the L1s that we saw in the previous slide. So just to give you, these are like one of the, some of the apps that are built on Ethereum. You'll have the same wallets on Solana. You'll have the same on BNB, on AVAX, on Bitcoin, on every other L1, right? So every layer one is building an ecosystem. Like we had a Web2 ecosystem. Now think that every layer one is building an equivalent of a Web2 ecosystem. So if there are 10 layer ones, there are 10 Web2 ecosystems being built. That is the amount of work which is happening globally. So that's the scale that you're, and if you're sort of not in it, then you're missing out on all the fun and all the progress that we're looking at. DeFi, that's decentralized finance, right? So everything that we do in our real world, savings, lending, banking, insurance, is being done in a decentralized way on some blockchain, actually on most blockchains, right? So one of the disruptive inventions of DeFi is AMM, which is an automated market maker. Have you heard of Uniswap? Show of hands. Okay, about 5-7 people have heard of Uniswap. Uniswap is like a marketplace. Just think of it as a national stock exchange or a Bombay stock exchange which governs its own. It adds liquidity to stocks, which are cryptocurrencies. It adds liquidity and it ensures that the matchmaking happens. Orders are created, orders are fulfilled, and everything is happening on its own without a governing body, without a team that manages it. Don't you think that's disruption? It's phenomenal, right? The kind of work, and this is actually running exchanges. These are exchanges where you can just connect your wallet and do it without anybody running the exchange. It's a contract which runs on its own. It's a protocol which runs on its own. So because of this, there is a lot of layers of finance which have been built on this, including insurance, exchanges, etc. The code is transparent, open for audit, and you can replicate, you can make your own Uniswap using the code. It's open source, right? And the way they measure success is total volume locked. Any guesses what's the total volume locked in DeFi today? What's the number? Any guesses? What's the number? What's the amount? What's the number of dollars which are being staked and transacted on DeFi today? I'll show you today's data. That's the number from today morning. $68 billion is the TVL locked across DeFi platforms. That's the size we are talking about. So if you're out of Web3, jago, grahak, jago, right? You got to look into this. That's the action happening. NFTs. is fantastic, right? These are again smart contracts which let you hold assets, which let you hold access, which gives you memberships. Phenomenal work happening. How many people know about NFTs here? Okay, how many people think NFTs are crap, they're just bubble? Okay, there are 1, 2, 3 people. Fantastic, it's good, you should have your opinion, but follow the market. The technology is phenomenal. The smart contract layer that governs NFTs is amazing, right? It's one of the use cases. DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Think of them as companies. Do you know how Amul runs as a cooperative? Have you heard of Amul running as India's largest cooperative? Right, it's run by members of the organization. There are employee-led organizations. That's very similar to how a DAO functions. It's a company, but there are the holders of the company, the shareholders or the unit holders of the company actually govern. Right, it's led. And if you see the screen on the right side, you'll see a comparison of how DAOs work and how companies work. And this is how all products are actually structuring themselves in Web3. Because it's the core, the philosophy of decentralization and ownership economy actually scales to forming companies like this. Cryptocurrency. ये तो सुना है सबने, right? But let me give you the bad news. This is the biggest misnomer that this industry has done to itself. Crypto और currency को साथ में जोड़ दिया ना. That's where the issue is. Most of the tokens are not currencies. The moment people listen and hear the word cryptocurrency, they think, can I buy dal, atta, roti with this? No, you can't, and that's not why they're supposed to be there, right? They have different use cases. And these tokens have 4 different categories. One of them is assets. They are store of value, or NFTs like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Pax Gold. There are stable coins which work like currencies, right? Which is USDT, USDC, DAI, BUSD. There are utility tokens, and for this utility, you need this token. So it's a currency for this particular utility. It's not to buy dal, atta, roti, right? So there are different utilities. It could be an exchange token, it could be a protocol token, it could be a meme coin like Doge. Have you heard of Doge? Shiba Inu, your favorite coin? Yes, right? So those have no utilities, but then most of them have utilities which are very specific. So the moment you join crypto and currency, your brain starts thinking different. So my advice is remove crypto and currency. Just think crypto and think tokens, right? Then there are security tokens. And one token can be classified as multiple things. So like Bitcoin is store of value, it can also be treated as a currency. So on and so forth, right? Ethereum is store of value, it is also a utility token, right? So on and so forth. But these are the 4 broad categories. So don't think of currency like your fiat currency, and then that's where you go down a spiral hole thinking that this doesn't work, this cannot replace. We're not supposed to replace. They're supposed to bring a different set of use cases, which we've been talking about. It's a double-edged sword. We've seen a lot of scams, we've seen a lot of rug pulls, we've seen a lot of things happen. For example, if it's decentralized and I lose my money, who do I go to with a complaint? It's a legit question, right? There's no customer service, there is no email ID to write to that I lost money. But that also, with a lot of freedom comes responsibility. So you need to understand how do you use your wallets, how do you protect your wallets, how do you secure your wallets, which asks another question that if I am a common man, I'm not tech savvy, what can I do? Fair enough, we are very early in the journey. If you're tech savvy, get involved, educate your non-tech savvy friends how to do it. If you're not tech savvy, then you play it step by step. There are ways in which you can be involved in a hybrid way, in your centralized and decentralized combinations. There are a lot of platforms which let you do that, where the protection and the custody of your tokens are taken care of by them. And gradually you learn and you move them out to your self-custody. But these are some of the things that you need to understand, not your keys, not your coin. A lot of people have lost because they've entrusted a platform or an exchange. Have you heard of Mt. Gox? That went bust. Have you heard of Solana's Phantom Wallet? There was a big hack a couple of days back. Right, so depends on how you are evolved as a person, what is your risk appetite, what is your understanding. You need to take a bet and you need to take an exposure relative to that, right? But with a lot of freedom comes a lot of responsibility. That line holds true. Well, that's just a fun slide to understand what it takes to secure your NFTs or your tokens. But yeah, having said that, in spite of this, hearing the good side and the bad side, if you're on the verge, if you're on the fence and you're still deciding, I want to be a part of Web3, I want to explore, how do you get started? Well, crypto Twitter. Twitter is the place you start. Join and follow people. Some of the speakers coming up after me are phenomenal guys to follow. Say hi to them and say hi to the community on Twitter. Um, Join Telegram. Understand that most people on crypto are on Telegram and on Discord. Download these apps. Start interacting with people. Make connections. Learn. People are happy to educate you. Um, Learn some of these jargons before I leave, right? That's just on a lighter note. But happy to take questions if any, if you have time for them, or I've overshot. Yeah, you can take a screenshot of this. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to take a couple of them before I. Yes, please. Do I think blockchain wallets will replace banks in the future? You should understand that blockchain is a technology that helps you maintain ledgers. So there's a fair chance that banks are going to adopt that technology. So banks will coexist with blockchains on blockchains. There's probably this country's currency will come on the blockchain. There is a conversation happening with that. So I think they'll coexist. Yeah.
Do you see yourself buying NFTs in the future?
I'm sorry?
Do you see yourself buying NFTs in the future?
I can't hear you.
Buying NFTs?
Myself?
Yeah.
I already have been investing.
Awesome.
You see, I think there will be a good cycle of bubble and bust. You'll see the powerful use cases of NFTs emerge in the next 3, 4, 5 years. The current use cases are a mixed bag, but if I entered because I wanted to learn. That's the best way of learning, have skin in the game. Yes, sir.
I have a very specific question, and this is a little amusing question to begin with. Why does some cartoon character looking stuff as NFT sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars? You know, what makes them valuable in the first place?
What makes an NFT valuable?
Yes.
Did I get it right? Beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. That's my answer. The way I would value an NFT or a startup or a listed stock versus how you would value. You know, I've been holding ITC and people have been joking about ITC since ages. You know, what's happened, just see what's happened now. I have 2x my money. So not only NFTs, even ITC, how does one value it?
Hi, I have a very specific question to NFT that how to increase the utility value of the NFTs.
How do you increase the utility value of an NFT? It depends on the project owner. When the NFT is being designed, it's the smart contract that is being defined. And what goes into the smart contract is, do you have a vision for the NFT? Just launching an NFT is very easy. I can make 5 JPEGs and we can put it on OpenSea, and I can tell you it's very rare, and I'll make sure you get 50 WhatsApp messages and actually create a FOMO and you'll end up buying that. Yeah. That's easy, right? But if I have a vision which says that I want to build a community, which is what NFTs are for, then I will build that utility or those community elements inside my smart contract. I can give you access. For example, Bored Ape Yacht Club is like the Lamborghini Club in the US. It gives you access to VIP areas, you know, where a lot of Hollywood celebrities are hanging out, into clubs which you can't walk into. Just because I have a BAYC in my wallet, it gives me access to like things which open so many doors. So that's a utility they thought. You could have a different utility, but you need to think of those utilities and why you are building an NFT project. You know, just don't do it for fun. For learning, you can do it for fun, but when you're taking money from the crowd, you have to have a long-term vision.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
So then there will be possibly. So let's say in the future blockchain takes over, right? So likely there will be regulatory bodies who will, have regulatory conditions over blockchain coexisting with the current currency, right? So you agree with that?
So blockchain is a layer on which the currency will be built. If we get a crypto-based currency of the country, it will be built on a blockchain. It's not either or. It needs a blockchain.
Yeah, so do you agree that our country or the government will provide regulatory bodies in order to, keep that in control so that they are not being taken down?
See, it's fiat, right? If the government decides to introduce, any sovereign nation, if they decide to introduce a new currency in the form of blockchain, they will have a set of rules around that. It goes without saying.
Then if they have the rules, my question is, doesn't that beat the point of the whole Web3 decentralized
That's
stuff?
exactly why I showed it as an example what is not Web3. And if you notice that CBDCs were a section over there, they're not Web3, they're not decentralized, they're brought by centralized. So just because it's on the blockchain doesn't make it decentralized and Web3. That's exactly what I said. You know, those four traits, decentralization, pseudonymous, backend first, permissionless, that is what makes it a Web3 product. So if any Web2 product comes up with a token, let's say Apple says, I want to launch my Apple products on the blockchain, still controlled by Apple. That doesn't make it Web3.
Yeah, so the whole idea of Web3 is think decentralized, right?
Exactly. That's
The
one of the
power-
core philosophies.
Yeah, so the power can't be held by one person or one organization.
No, that just beats
that's,
it.
That's the whole point. But
Yes.
if regulations come on in the future, then probably some people will have power over it.
Ultimately, we'll have to give it time to see if things are truly decentralized in nature, because we've seen that when there are communities also, there is a power play, there is a majority. So those things can, and probably I'll take it offline since we are out of time. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank